Welcome to Sporting Chancellors, the end of season special. This is Conor Hayes, joined by Colm Booth, David Hughes and James McDermott. Great to have you back, lads.
Great to be back.
I know, they didn't think we could do it. Apparently Carlos Tadhg held up an RIP Sporting Chancellors banner as well. And but no, so he was wrong on that.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Let's get through the intro.
Yeah, true. Right, so we'll start with rugby. You were over in London, Colm.
I was, yeah.
Were you over at all? 3 of the Heineken Cup wins for Leinster?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think I'm kind of an integral part in this recent record
or
of
a massive event junkie.
Yeah, I'm that too. Yeah.
So
definitely.
was it a bit of an anticlimax? If I mean, not to be negative, but I suppose did it seem a bit of an anticlimax?
Well, no, I certainly I didn't find it an anticlimax at all. You know, as you said, I've been to the 3 of them, and they've kind of been a really interesting progression. Obviously, the first one was incredible in terms of Leinster winning their first Heineken Cup.
And it was a tight match.
It was a tight match.
I think, they've won 3 different types of finals, which
Yeah,
makes it very special.
And that's about the progression. Like the second final, last year's final, they produced. You know, it wasn't a great first half, but it was possibly the most complete half of rugby anyone's produced in the history of Heineken Cup. It was totally fantastic.
To have the courage to come back. You know?
Yeah. And then this year, it was almost an exhibition game. Like they were just on a different plane to the Ulster players. And as such, like you've seen Leinster come from, you know, champions to kind of, you know, an incredible comeback win, and now just the most complete champions probably in the history of the Cup.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, obviously they have done something that no other team has done by winning 3 and 4 years. And do you think they are the greatest team of the professional era?
Well, not only have they won 3 and 4 years, but within that they've produced that incredible comeback against Northampton last year, and this year they've beaten the finalists by the biggest margin anyone has ever won. And they've scored the most points anyone's ever scored in the final.
I mean, I think this, you know, it is a bit of a Leinster loving, but what does make them very special, looking at it from an Irish team's point of view, and why they're a very special Irish team, is they can win as favourites. Yeah. Which is something that Irish teams just have struggled with so much. And it was fitting. It was fitting. I thought that Katie Taylor won her 4th world title, and they won the Heineken Cup on the same day, because they're both unbelievably able to deal with the pressure of being overwhelming favourites. Yeah, which is unusual in Irish teams.
Yeah, very unusual.
Usually, once they become favourites, they absolutely collapse in on themselves.
Yeah, and the Leinster certainly didn't do that.
No, so no, it was absolutely fantastic. Just looking at the other provinces, Munster obviously had a very difficult season in many ways.
They have. No, at the same time, they won 6 out of 6 of their group games. Which does get lost in you know, kind of.
But lose a home quarter final to Ulster.
And possibly more damaging was the away semi-final they played against the Ospreys in the Magners League.
Absolutely empty.
They were emptied, and to be honest, I feel sorry for Ian Keatley. I'd looked at the game, and I thought he started off quite well at 10, and then he was shifted back on 20 minutes for O'Gara to come in. Played the rest of the game, I thought, pretty well mainly from full back, and Raj. Listen, I know, you know, I'm a little bit biased on this, but
you love Raj, don't you?
Yeah, well, I do, and you know, I certainly I appreciate what he's given to Irish rugby over the years. He's been sort of an incredible servant, to use that cliche. But yeah, I think he's a busted flush as far as I'm concerned.
Excellent use of the phrase busted flush. We hadn't got that in actually in the 6 weeks, so that was good.
We definitely had. Yeah, you called Van Howe a busted flush.
Oh, did I?
Brief 4, I think.
Thanks for it. It's good that someone, you know, remembers everything I say.
What a creep!
Yeah, he's obviously been listening to them again.
Yeah,
and touching himself. Right. So there's obviously Ulster. I mean, they were absolutely destroyed in the final. Yeah, but it was a fantastic season.
It was a fantastic.
Do you think there's something more lasting there, or was this a kind of an aberration?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do next year, because they still have 1 or 2 squad places to fill, and one of Ulster's problems this year has been that they're kind of Magners League team. You know, whereas Leinster were able to win the Magners League by, what was it? I think they were topped it by 15 points.
Obviously, sorry, we should just say we're recording before the final, and Leinster have a chance to be the first team to do that double.
Yeah,
no team has ever done that double, which is surprising in the sense that, you know,
you've had Leinster and Munster.
Yeah, exactly.
5 and 7.
So that, you know, do you think they can do that? But either way,
yeah, definitely, I think they can do it, and I think the fact that they didn't schedule any sort of homecoming parades kind of points to the fact that
they're really taking it seriously. So Ulster, you think have a good future?
I think they do. I think they're probably a little light next year in the back row, because as I was saying, you know, they've a really, really good first 15. No one can dispute that. It's the first 15 that got them to the Heineken Cup final. But in the Magners League, they finished 6th. And when you look at sort of where Leinster are, they're able to bring in players, interchange. If there are injuries, someone like Fergus McFadden's coming in, and he's backup, but he's able to perform at a level where he can be a part of this incredible Heineken Cup winning team, and that's something Ulster do need to address.
Right, so just if we could compare Munster and Ulster, Munster have a lot of retirements as well recently.
I think they've had 5 this season.
And all
whatever sort of before their time as well.
Exactly. I mean injuries as well. But whatever about abilities and all that, and that is an issue too. It's also figures in the dressing room. Big figures
huge,
win big matches.
Definitely.
So would you be more optimistic about Ulster or future or Munster's future as a challenger to Leinster in this country and obviously in Europe as well?
Well, I think. Certainly, I mean, Munster have the stadium and they have the brand built up.
This is it.
That Ulster are trying to get towards. I think in terms of the track record of the respective coaches the two teams have hired, Rob Penny has a far superior track record to that of Mark Anscombe. So I think that'll work in Munster's favour. On the flip side, I think David Humphreys, and I was saying maybe there are a few places they could sort of bulk up in terms of the squad next year, but Ulster's signings over the last sort of 2 years have worked out really, really well for them. In contrast, Munster's really haven't.
But Munster have a tradition of flops. I mean, in the foreign market, and it's.
Well, at the same time, they've
had some good ones too.
Yeah, they have, but they haven't had some good ones in. I think Rua Tapoki was the last really good foreign signing they made,
and I think
that was 3 years.
That's
ago,
where Leinster have excelled.
And
the ability to bring and
the academy as well, and the academy as well.
Oh no, that's why I'd be less optimistic for Munster because there just doesn't seem to be the players coming through.
No, but I mean, if Penny can kind of get a handle maybe on who's coming in to fill those sort of non-Irish qualified slots that the teams have, that might be something where you can see a dramatic improvement over the next year. Obviously you won't see it next year because they're all filled, but over the next couple of years you might see a dramatic improvement in that area for Munster.
And finally, Connacht, again, almost the anti-Spurs situation. They qualified because someone won a Heineken Cup, European Cup I should say. And so great for them obviously. They knew obviously because it was an all-Irish final they were in the relaxed position where they could just sit and watch it. So I think the future is looking much brighter for them too. I don't think they're going to compete for European Cups.
I think they sold 3,500 season tickets last year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which I think is probably equivalent to a fairly good attendance for one of their bigger games in previous years. And this year they're probably gonna surpass that.
And they are increasing that, as you said, the brand. They are building up. You go into Galway City and the flags are there. And
and I mean they got in Mazda as a sponsor, which I think is probably 5 or 6 times what Bank of Ireland were paying them in terms of sponsorship. So obviously, there is real growth there in terms of the brand.
I wonder did Kenny Dalglish take credit for that sponsorship deal? He seems to like to do that. But
and they're getting Nathan White, who has a Heineken Cup medal in at Tadhg next year.
There you go.
Which should be important for them.
Okay, moving on from the provinces, the Ireland squad was named during the week for the 3 tests against New Zealand. A lot of negative reaction. Would you be along with the negative reaction?
I mean, first of all, I criticise it for not being progressive enough. I think
who should be in then?
Well, and now this is going to sound really odd in terms of what my major criticism is of it not being progressive enough. I think the person most hard done by is probably Paddy Wallace, because he's had the best season I've certainly seen him have in all the years I've been watching rugby. I mean, even in the final, I thought he was Ulster's best player. He brilliantly set up the try for Dan Toohey, and sort of throughout the game, he was kind of a controlling influence beside Jackson, and worried the Leinster defence. So I think he's very, very unlucky not to be going.
Is Toohey actually in it, by the way?
Toohey is in it.
Oh, well, that's good.
Thankfully,
that was
now. In terms of second rows, the fact that Donegal Callahan has made the cut is, I think, frankly ridiculous. I mean, he was starting behind Mick O'Driscoll by the end of the season for Munster,
It does seem
it's
mad.
yeah, it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre.
He's a great lad to have around the camp, though.
He's good crack.
Which is always the way you should judge.
Yeah, definitely.
Squads. Maybe
definitely.
that's how Downing got in.
Yeah, but then also sort of my bugbear of Ron O'Gara being selected again at the expense of a younger out half, like maybe Keighley, who could certainly do with that experience.
No doubt.
Ian Madigan, who's had he's had a fantastic season. I think he's the top try scoring out half in Europe. Full stop.
Okay.
And I mean, when you consider he's second choice, that's
fantastic stat.
That is a fantastic stat.
Good stat.
So it could be an opportunity for those guys to go over there and understudy Johnny Sexton and maybe give Sexton that what he has at Leinster, where he is kind of the general. He's calling the plays and he's very secure in his position.
Absolutely,
and he's playing fantastic.
It has become an issue now. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Leinster players playing much better in blue than they do in green.
Yeah.
And it was a criticism of Munster players before. And now it's it's happening again, and that has to be looked at. I mean, it just
definitely.
So do you think we have? I mean, we've never beaten them. It is one of those records in sports. You think in 100 years you would have beaten them once, as good as they are.
I think we played them. It's probably 20 times over that period. It's not like we're playing every year.
True, but in 3 tests, I mean, they're obviously they'll be squad rotating as well.
I think
it's the last thing O'Driscoll needs to tick off, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's the last thing he needs to tick off. He can tick off.
Yeah, sorry, obviously,
I'd love to see it happen. I think our best chance is probably New Zealand underestimating us
in the first game.
Yeah, in the first game, because traditionally they don't play at their absolute peak in the first game, and they haven't played together since the World Cup.
So there's an advantage.
There's an advantage there. Steve Hansen probably isn't the same coach that Graham Henry is, or a coach of the same calibre.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, there are relative weaknesses in the New Zealand team. I just think that for Ireland to capitalise on that, you need a camp which is a team which is performing at its utmost.
And I think the negativity that surrounds Kidney now, and we do a lot of Kidney bashing. We should say he is the only coach in the modern era to win a Grand Slam. But whatever, even it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's negativity around the camp, whether that's right or wrong. Yeah. There's negativity.
I think it should be mentioned the Irish media have, obviously with the exception of ourselves, have been very reticent.
Oh, they are. I mean,
very
the Irish
reticent
media
about criticising them.
The Irish media, the rugby team in general, not just Kidney, they give the Irish rugby team an absolute free ride.
They do, but I think a lot of that is that the rugby team's getting a free ride is by extension that Kidney's getting a free ride.
Fair enough.
There has been a turn recently.
There's been the start of a turn, but I mean, when you look at the statistics, the guy has a 40% win ratio since coming into the job, whereas Eddie O'Sullivan had, I think it was in the high 60s.
But the difference between no Six Nations and one Six Nations is infinite. That is the way it is. It's sport. It's the difference between no trophies and one trophy.
Had Kidney won the Six Nations last year, you'd say, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
but what happened is he came in, took someone else's team, did an amazing thing with that team, and ever since we've been going downhill. Ever since that November international performance against South Africa, we've been on a real slide.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be optimistic that we could even.
No, I wouldn't either.
Which would be so disappointing because you think 3 times, and it's a massive monkey on our backs.
It is, huge.
Not too optimistic there. Right, we'll move on from rugby. We'll do a review of the football season, and I have to say, all hype aside and all that, and we do kind of take the mickey out of the hyperbole that comes out. It was the best season I can remember in my lifetime. Not that we're massively old, but in terms of all around
in terms
Europe,
of the Premier League or just
all around Europe, all the stories.
I think the gloss was taken off it by the Chelsea.
I was going to open up with: can anyone remember a more unpopular victory with neutrals? Obviously, if you're a Chelsea fan and you're listening to
Liverpool.
With neutrals,
that's what we're saying.
No.
That was the comeback.
I think Liverpool were quite. A lot of neutrals were up for Liverpool that night. I know for a fact because I remember watching it with a lot of neutrals. I honestly cannot remember, and obviously Chelsea fans, it's not a criticism. Like, you're going to support your team, that's fair enough. But I can honestly not remember at least a more unhappy night for the neutrals than last Saturday night.
Just Chelsea fans and Arsenal fans support them. The only fans.
Well, Arsenal, I don't think all Arsenal fans would have. Obviously, they would have. A lot of them because of the Spurs thing. So and it's twofold because it's the football they played, and it's the type of characters that many of them are.
It's also the Abramovich.
This was the holy grail for him. This is the one thing that he couldn't buy, and it was always a nice thing that whatever he spent, he still doesn't have a European Cup. And that ended on Saturday, which is this is. But I do have to say, there's another way of looking at it, and it is nice that courage and the ability to not ever see that you're beaten is just as important as being skillful on a football. I think that is important at the same time.
I'm sorry, the ability of your goalkeeper to keep you in the game and then for you to fluke a goal is...
No, it wasn't...
Call it a fluke or whatever. I think it is important that football still has an unpredictable nature.
Yeah.
Right? That Chelsea can go out and against all odds over 2 legs beat Barcelona. I think Barcelona are the greatest team on earth. Don't get me wrong. I really am a huge fan of Barcelona. I think in order for football to be the greatest sport in earth,
I think it is important. There's many different ways to play football, and there's also many different ways to win, and I think that makes it exciting.
And Barca deserve to beat Chelsea 100 times out of 100, right?
Yeah.
But if Barca were going to beat Chelsea 100 times out of 100, who'd bother watching?
Exactly. That is the absolute crucial point, in my opinion.
Personally, I would watch it because I love to watch Barcelona.
Do you have different
even if it was a foregone conclusion, I'd watch it just for the aesthetic appreciation of the way Barcelona play football.
I don't think that's sport.
And at the end, looking at it, if every team played like Barcelona,
I'm not saying I want every team to play like Barcelona. Personally, I don't think there's probably not any other team that can play like Barcelona.
Swansea.
And Arsenal of 2 years ago, obviously, you have these.
They were very much,
incredible teams.
Don't win any trophies like Arsenal and Swansea.
It was facetious there.
Very good.
Thank you.
Not like continue. So I think in many ways it was the best of nights, and in many ways it obviously was the worst of nights.
The best of nights
and the worst. I'm trying to be a little poetic there. It didn't quite work. Miserably. Right, so we will move on from that. It was, I think it was a fitting end to a quite bizarre season in many ways. So, manager of the season, just looking at the Premier League, Pardew got it. I suppose you could have 4 candidates. You could say Rodgers, Lambert, Pardew, and Mancini, obviously, because they won the thing. I don't think anyone would say Mancini.
What about Harry? 4th place finish. I mean, that's huge.
That's all we were looking for at the start of the season, as he constantly said, even before he was asked the question by the journalists. Okay, so who I personally give it to Lambert. I think Lambert's achievements are absolutely fantastic, and as well as Pardew did, you've got to say a lot of those signings I don't think had anything to do with it.
Well, they're all Gren Carr, the chief scout with Newcastle.
I mean, this is what's coming out now. Is this
absolutely?
It's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's all. He spends his whole holidays, his whole weeks in France
with his son.
Hopefully with his son. Making reference to Alan Carr. But he seems to just scour through the French leagues. Even he signed a player today.
Every manager has scouts. If you're going to say that any manager's success is down to the signings,
but realistically, do you really think Alan Pardew watched Johan Cabaye?
No.
I think
Alan Pardew. This is the point we're making. It's not.
Again, if it's a likeable manager, you say, "Oh, Jesus, he did well there. He unearthed him." It's because Pardew's that little bit smarmy. We're quick to say, "Oh, no,
that little bit smarmy."
He's also an egomaniac.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Gren Carr, I think, has a lot more influence than most scouts do.
This is
football.
I mean, they would know a little bit about it. So I personally give it to Lambert. They went up 2 divisions. And
the team they had as well.
And he only signed players who were in the lower league. There was no player with massive Premier League experience, and it showed as well in the way that QPR were the team of all the teams that came up were the close to going down, and they were the ones who went out and signed experienced Premiership players.
Absolutely, yeah. The drive probably isn't there. That's the argument.
And obviously Rodgers did a great job as well.
Yeah, absolutely, he did.
But they kind of struggled towards the end.
They were safe at that stage. I mean,
this is true, and I suppose it's not really a great kind of telltale sign of how they're going to do next season. But I do think they might struggle next season.
I think I agree.
But I mean, that's only pure speculation.
Yeah, they did seem to get found out near the end of the season. Like people pushing on to them a lot quicker, and they didn't keep the ball half as well. I mean, if you look at the way they retained possession the first half of the season compared to the last 2 months,
Like
I think
two different teams.
Norwich is the most versatile of all the teams that went up this season in terms of the way they can play the long ball to hold, and also they can go through. They like to play or Houlihan.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And Lambert is very good tactically.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. They don't have a lot of money, Norwich. They're a lot.
So I could see him leaving. Take the Villa job, possibly.
And I tell you what, the Villa job's a very good job to go into, because all the fans expect now, just play a bit of nice football and score a few goals.
One huge
and
thing
finish mid-table. Yeah. That's for the first season anyway. That's all the Villa fans will expect. It's a very nice job to go into. And basically, the manager after McLeish is a great job.
And one big thing in his favour as well, Heskey's been released, which is huge.
Yeah, but Carlos Squire's gone. Huge. So do we agree on Lambert as manager?
Lambert's my choice.
Yeah,
we should ring him and tell him.
I concur.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan.
Terry's won a Champions League, guys.
I was surprised. It must have been a choice for him to come in the manager's suit or to come in the player's suit. He obviously went for the.
I think it's probably just in terms of Paul Lambert, worth just throwing out there about his time with Borussia Dortmund.
With Matthias Sammer.
Matthias Sammer,
fantastic. No, they were very. He was an excellent player.
Yeah,
and this thing, great players don't make great managers. Sometimes they do.
But what I hadn't realised is that, and I think I read this on F365. I'd always known about his time with Dortmund and thought he was a really good player from that, and then his subsequent spell at Celtic. But I believe he'd been released by Motherwell. In the year.
Well, that's a sign of a great player.
Which
it's a bit like how Fergie was sacked by East Fife.
I think I remember that. I think it was more to do. He wasn't.
How do you
you were 4.
There's a documentary on Lambert on recently on TV. Yeah, but anyway.
Okay,
go on. Tell us what you were going to say.
Move on.
Sorry. Okay, so we're going to go goal of the season. What was your goal of the season, Dave?
Being a Newcastle fan, I have to go with Cisse.
Boring.
Cisse Chelsea.
It was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
Go on. Tell us there. What was your reaction?
My reaction to it was just pure shock and amazement. I was actually listening to it on a stream. On a radio stream, and this is one of the streams where someone's sitting in his bedroom and commentating on the match, watching it on the screen.
Yeah.
And his voice changed from being so mundane to screaming like a schoolgirl.
I was actually.
Why were you listening to one of those? Why was you listening to a radio station?
Because the radio Newcastle's blocking in Newcastle.
There you go. I was listening. I was on the phone to someone who was watching it, who was streaming it live, and we were obviously having the phone conversation. He just let out an expletive. He just was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "What?" Well, he's like, "That's the goal of the season," and
he was proved right.
I know, but it's one of it was so built up before I saw it, and that's always like the Ben Arfa goal, for example. That was massively built up before I saw it, and it was a great goal. But I was slightly disappointed with it because basically the attempts to tackle him were just
awful,
pathetic, and that's why they went down.
I just think even you see Drogba's reaction after Cisse's goal was pure.
But that was another reason Pardew gets on my nerves. Like, what's he asking? What's he asking Drogba? Oh, Didier, what do you think of that? It's like, shut up. You did nothing.
In the press conference after it, Didier came over to ask. Anyway, no, because I remember I had read about it on minute by minute text commentary in the Guardian.
And you can't do it justice. No, that sort of goal is one of those ones that can't do it.
He didn't even seem to try to do it justice. He just called a half volley out to the foot. I was like, must have just dropped 25 yards out. He had a whack. And then I went on and came up on 101, great goals. And I was in the library at the time. I just silent gasp.
So James, your goal of the season?
I was hard pressed to think of one since I came in, so I went with Crouch,
which was also it was sort of overshadowed. What's brilliant about that one is he sets it up himself.
Yeah. What's brilliant about it is just about everything. It's just that apart from the fact
Roy's right about everything.
Apart from the fact it's not in a big game. Yeah, it has everything else.
But
it was against
City
and
the eventual champions.
And back to goal, like there was obviously a huge element of luck to this. Back to goal, flicks it up to himself on the turn, an incredible amount of topspin, knocks the ball clean over, just dips in time for the far post. It was magical.
We all knew he had his locker though. He's
always threatening to.
Do you? He said himself he does in training all the time.
No, the thing is, you watch soap for those moments of beauty, and then when they give it to you, you just
I do like how they sing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." Like that is funny. Stoke fans are scum. Booing Aaron Ramsey, they're absolute scum. I'm sorry, that's a fact. But oh no, all the Stoke fans who listen to this are going to come and get me. Like,
Whelan's listening.
Yeah. Sorry, just Jay's reaction there as if he was frightened for me. Like I just said something about the IRA. But that is very funny. Colm, do you have a goal of the season?
Yeah, mine is. I suppose it's not in sort of technically in the same league as.
No, it's your favourite. It's your favourite goal.
But my favourite one was that sort of that momentous goal scored by Sergio Aguero.
Yes.
In stoppage time.
Goals are about context as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it was a very good finish. He hit
it was,
hard.
and I love the way he stayed on his feet. I mean, the guy could have gone down. He could have bottled and gone down.
And
under
in
the
that scenario, Balotelli would have won the league.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Balotelli
set it up
on the ground. Very good.
Yeah.
Composure show.
For that moment.
Let the ball across his body.
There's one word for that. It's bottle. Aguero's a fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Eamon Dunphy. He's talked about bottle. He said he knows a lot about bottle. He knows a lot about bottle because he didn't have any.
Yeah, he admits that himself. That's Dunphy. He's always very self.
Yeah, but Sergio Aguero is a man with
self-honest.
Go on.
Sergio Aguero's goal.
Yeah, he's a man with bottle.
Yeah, and he proved it. Okay, my goal this season, a little bit left field, lads. I wanted to look this up. Raúl for Schalke versus Colm. It's this absolutely... it just sums up everything you want to know about Raúl. One of my favourite players of all time. Obviously, he's gone off and taken the millions to UAE. And I thought he could have had one more season in Europe, so I'm a bit disappointed with him for that.
Yeah.
But anyway, this goal for Schalke. Just Schalke, Raúl, chip. Look it up on YouTube. And he plays... They're on the break, and he plays a brilliant 1-2. And look at his movement after he plays the pass. He splits in between the left back and the centre half, and then he just plays the most delightful chip. And the goalie's standing up, and he just hits it over him. It's my favourite goal of the season. It was absolutely fantastic.
For anyone watching on webcam, by the way, you see Conor smile and joy with that.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. So look that up, Raúl Chip Schalke on YouTube. It's my favourite goal of the season, and one of my favourite players. And now that he's shipped off to UAE, we won't see him again. So I thought that was good.
And that's disappointing because going to Schalke was a really brave move for the guy.
And it worked really well. I think he could have had one more season.
Yeah.
I think he could have one more season in Europe. As Drogba, but obviously Drogba is the same thing for him. He's obviously... everyone dreams of winning the Chinese Premier League.
Super League.
Sorry. How could I make that mistake? Right, so we'll move on swiftly. Not that we were quite swift there, but player of the season then. Your favourite player. Again, it's your favourite player, obviously.
My choice.
Player of the season.
My choice is kind of to the backdrop of City's title-winning team with been a temper tantrums of Tevez. There's been obviously Balotelli's issues. I'm going to go with Company. Just how consistently good what a leader he's been this year. Just kind of...
A rock at a football club.
Exactly. It's just his actions kind of speak volumes of.
Yeah, you either lead by, you lead by example, and as a captain, and I think, Company proved it, and
absolutely.
He was also very dignified after the celebrations and stuff like that. And he made a big attempt to go to the 68. He made a big attempt to go to the 68. The 68 winning title team, he made a big attempt to that.
He's a class act.
Proper club captain, and it's a pity that he's at a club that just is not a class act in my opinion, with all their millions and all that. And look, I'm not gonna lie,
the fact that they have money makes them not a class act. The
fact they brought
your political leanings coming into this, Conor.
The fact they brought back Tevez, Mancini, this is when I really got annoyed with him. Mancini said I'll never play him again, and I took a lot of respect from that. I said, look, he's been but the minute they got in a spot of bother in the league, they threw away all their things, and of course then Tevez does the golf swing and everyone loves it. The fans lap it up.
Yeah.
No, it's sicking me. Sorry, but on Company, David's right. The guy's a class act, and he is. Yeah, exactly. You said Bolton stay up though.
It's a mess we win the league though. Remember that?
Yeah, this is true. And you were so close to being wrong. I think he is a great. What a club captain.
And he's kind of got a really interesting past as well, hasn't he? I mean, he came over to Belgium as a very poor immigrant, and is he fluent in 5 different languages? He's incredibly well spoken. He's better spoken than I think most of the English players and Irish players you see in the Premier League. It's he's very kind of an erudite guy. He's interesting to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. So James, your player of the season, your favourite player of the season?
Originally, I was going to go for Van Persie.
Yeah,
kind of a boring enough choice.
Yeah,
but
safe.
Yeah, no. I went
your one was real out there.
Premier League player of the year. No, I went with Clint Dempsey.
Yeah, and he was brilliant this year.
He was fantastic this year. 17 Premier League goals, 22 in all competitions.
That's not from a traditional striker either.
No, exactly. Yeah,
and playing for a mid-table.
And an American as well.
He's American. No, I've always been a fan of him. I always wondered why no one's taking a punt on him.
I think so, and I suppose he isn't a centre mid and he's not a striker, but neither is Gerrard or Lampard, and they've made great careers.
He is exactly a Gerrard Lampard.
I think so. At a lower level. Well, he's played at a lower level.
Yeah,
Whether he could have done it at a bigger level, we don't know. He's 29 now, of course. So.
Yeah, he fills that gap between midfield and strikers, and he manages to put the ball in the net.
A great header, great header of the ball.
Super, yeah.
Fantastic header of the ball. And yeah, I think take 17 goals and take Clint Dempsey away from Fulham, and you're looking at a hugely different team.
Stephen Kelly won the team.
Hugely different situation. So that's why I give him my player.
Right, Colm, do you have a favourite player?
Well, me, I decided I'd keep a Premier League as well.
Okay, good.
And go for Joseph Burton.
He was
because he provided just so many moments of sheer joy for me. If he wasn't kind of teaching me about life and philosophy,
coaching,
via Nietzsche or George Orwell from his Twitter account.
Yeah.
He was just illuminating the Premier League with things like telling Carl Henry how he was earning 80 grand a week.
Yeah.
There was the wonderful incident with Gervinho, was it?
God, that's so long ago.
That was
I think what's
and then no, I'm sorry, but the coup de grace, the pièce de résistance.
all those phrases which he invented.
Was that kick on Sergio Aguero?
Yeah, the face.
It was unbelievable.
I'd say that's the
face. It was one of the
most
most perfect moments I've ever witnessed on television. It was.
That's what you look out for. Yeah, no.
We glossed over that comment you were making there, Connor.
I said it was a similar face to his brother probably made when he got up to his business. Just utter hatred, utter scumbaggery, just vile human being, and a shame.
12 matches now. What's everyone's opinion of that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wish it was 25.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
What did QPR do in this situation today?
Who's going to buy him? And you can't sack him. I don't. It would be a difficult thing to sack him.
I think they can.
If had they any sense, they'd have written some kind of
clause into the contract.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
For him,
keep your sense.
Well, I don't know. Tony Fernandez seems to have a really.
He's better than
Tony Fernandez's Twitter is the best thing you can see. It's QPR owner, Irons till I die. Still,
very good.
So he's
very
typical.
Good. Right, my player of the season. I'll be quick on this. I went again a bit left field. Edison Cavani for Napoli. He's been absolutely brilliant for Napoli all season.
Lovely hair,
and he's a beautiful man. He is a fantastic footballer, and he scored the winner the other night in the Italian Cup. They beat Juventus, and it was just a great thing for Napoli to win a trophy, first trophy since the Maradona era. Interesting, Napoli, they only got back at 5 a.m. So usually in those things you think, okay, we'll wait till the morning to do the open top bus parade. But no, there was 50,000 Neapolitans ready to go at 5 in the morning, and they had the open top bus parade, which reminded me of the story when they last won the league. They had a massive street party, lasted a week, no one did any work, and the Napoli fans got so excited they wrote on people's gravestones, "You don't know what you're missing." Brilliant. So they're just nuts, and Cavani sums up that entire team. They're a great footballing side. Now they actually were underachieved a little in the league this year, but he scored a shed load of goals, and I'm sure he's going to get a big move.
And just of course, in terms of players of the season and shed load of goals, you have to mention
Lionel Messi. I mean, he's doing stuff, as I said the other night, like Dixie Dean back in the 1930s scored like 60 goals in a season.
Remember it well.
Yeah, no, but like everyone would be like, well, no one will ever do that again.
Yeah,
and he's done it.
Yeah,
he is rewriting what we thought was possible
in the major leagues,
in major football.
Who would have thought Stuart Downey went no goals and no assists?
Well, he got Kenny Sand.
He also, he was outperformed by Tim Howard in terms of outfield contributions.
That's so true. I was actually doing something like trying to remember Premier League goal scorers, and Howard was in it. Yeah. Very interesting. Right. So then, just finally, the story of the season. In your opinion?
I'm going to go for the Blackburn one, the Venky's ownership, just for pure entertainment value.
It was absolutely hilarious, wasn't it? It was.
They certainly ate their chicken at the end of the season. It was
chicken on the pitch at the end of the season.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic.
Even
the inquiries in October into just a group of foreign owners remain anonymous, making inquiries over whether or not it's true relegation can happen.
Absolutely.
And then maybe suggesting, maybe we franchise this. Maybe
the Steve Keane video.
Oh, that's the icing on top of it.
We'll win the Carling Cup. Why? Why do you care, Steve?
A bit to try to sign Ronaldinho as well. It was just.
Oh yeah, it was. There was a laugh. It's terrible for Blackburn fans because their club has been absolutely ruined.
Exactly.
I suppose they saw, what a good owner can do in Jack Walker. And they're seeing the other side of it, the flip side of the coin.
Yeah, Walker, you see, left him fairly quickly high. Well, obviously Walker died, but his family left him fairly quickly high and dry. The Walker trust owned the club.
They did, and sold it to Venky's.
Yeah, exactly. Poor old Jack Walker.
But also look at how poor the team were, Jerry. How awful the team were. I'm going to not use the word poor because I get slagged every time. But yeah, how awful the team were this season.
Yeah, but they don't have bad. We discussed it before. Like, they're not a bad side. Like, they definitely they had definitely as good a chance as anyone. Like, it wasn't like Keane was unlucky in the sense like Allardyce had that team mid-table. That's
there was a lot of weak.
They sold a lot of players, of course. Right, James, story of the season for you.
All of Harry's stories.
Sorry, right now.
From going to win the league to
I never said that.
We'll take third to get ahead of Arsenal to we always wanted fourth. Then the tax evasion case.
Rosie 47.
Rosie. And then the England job. I mean, altogether, it's been a really ridiculous.
That 4-4-2 cover will just forever live in the memory. All hail the king. The king of what? Because the Europa League, quite possibly. And we all know Spurs love the Europa League. Love it. So, absolute disaster.
I wonder where he goes from here now.
I was going to say, I don't think a team's victory will affect another team more than what this Chelsea victory will do to Spurs. Bale and Modric are not going to stick around for Europa League football. So it's unlucky, but the rule is completely fair. 5 teams from one country is a joke, and the holders have to defend it. 4 teams is ripping it enough, to be honest with you. It's supposed to be the Champions League. That's So I have no sympathy in that sense for them. Obviously, it's unlucky, but
I've no sympathy for him. Full stop. Anyway.
It was the one from my point, from our point of view. It was the one positive from Chelsea's victory. We were so disappointed, and we just thought, at least Harry's mucked up. Right. Just final thing on the football. Liverpool, no manager. It looks like Martinez is going to be interviewed in the next 36 hours. He's the odds-on favourite now. Massive risk, isn't it? That's
such a risk. I'd have left Kenny in there. I really think the guy has a track record of winning. Obviously, that track record
happened a while ago.
Extends back quite some time. But the biggest problem with him coming into that club was obviously adjusting to modern football. He's been there for 18 months. If something was going to happen, like he has the fact that he's a winner. He has the legendary status on Anfield, and this is the year coming that if it was going to turn around, this would be the year that it would happen. So I think they jumped the gun.
The one thing I will say that if I was John W. Henry and I had £50 million, I'm not sure I'd be happy to give it away to Dalglish again.
Well, keep your 50 million in your pocket.
Well, then they're not good enough. Then
Well, I don't know. I mean, just maybe give him 20 or something, and say, listen, do what you can with that.
I have to say, it's an awful job for anyone to go into, isn't it?
Yeah.
High expectations, average players, and you're supposed to challenge for the top 4.
And not just average players, players on huge wages.
It's the club equivalent of taking over the English national team.
It is, isn't it, a bit? And in this case, it's going to be similar because the fans won't want the guy who's in the job.
So what Benitez back, that's going to accept, which is
the best moment was they had Sky Sports News had a fan on, and the problem with Kenny was he should never go back. So who do you want at the job? Rafa. Fantastic. Right, we're going to move on. Euro 2012.
Very quickly, I think you have to mention, because there is a sports show, you have to mention Montpellier's League One title. I just think that ought to be raised.
It was my story of the season, but we're really struggling for time.
Okay, sorry. No, I just wanted to.
Sorry, thanks for reminding me. My story of the season: 13th biggest budget in League 1, and they finished first. They spent 1.7 million on transfers in the summer. PSG spent 90 million. 10 times wage budget PSG have. Every stat you bring into it just makes.
And also,
here's the final thing. The guy who scored the league-winning goals. They needed a draw. They won 2-1. The guy who got the double. Put it in perspective. John Utaka. Portsmouth reject. That's the kind of standard of player that this guy was working with.
Wait to see their stars taken away though, the likes of Giroud.
Giroud is going, and They actually, you know, that you look up on YouTube, the Montpellier owner, their post parade dyed his hair in the Montpellier colours in a mohawk. He's 65 years old, massive man, huge man, just a unit.
Picture an older Pat Dolan,
picture Pat Dolan, but old and even more jowly. He dyed his hair in a mohawk in Montpellier's colours, and Montpellier is one of the worst jerseys in European football. But they really deserve the title. It's a fantastic story, and thanks for reminding me, Colm. It is absolutely brilliant, and people should know a lot more about that, because that is
unbelievable. It's like something, you know, it's on,
you do in
on
Football
the
Manager. It's something. It's a miracle.
But that's it.
Right. So Euro 2012. I don't know if you've heard, but we qualified for this one. Yeah, there hasn't been a song about it or anything yet. But So,
which is your favourite song? I think that's what we need to.
There actually aren't many great songs out there. The videos are what you're looking for.
The amount of people who are trying to make money off this, particularly former Ireland players who are charging massive appearance fees at this stage. But I do have to say one thing: I love the European Championships. The quality of the European Championships is fantastic,
but it's about to be diluted.
In 2016. But no, this one.
Enjoy this one. It's unfortunate for us though that the quality is that.
Euro 2008. I was going to say, but I think the fact that we're probably the worst team in it does say a lot about how good the competition is. And Euro 2008 was a completely underrated tournament. Absolutely fantastic. So many great games.
For quality, it was the best I can remember. And then none of the home nations there. I think that's why it was underrated.
Without the English circus. But so just looking ahead, obviously we have a lot of injuries. Updates on them.
Gibbon's going to see a specialist and look at his knee, which sounds a lot worse than they're portraying now, the FAI.
There does seem to be a lot of comical alley about what the FAI are.
I'm slightly worried that the fact that Westwood and David Ford spent latter parts of the season on the bench there.
Well, I'd be on a personal level, I'd just be more crushed for Shay Gibbon. Like if John O'Shea got injured, you know.
Absolutely.
And Dunn as well. All of these guys deserve that major tournament.
That'll be the last. Gibbon will retire after that, if there's any doubt.
I think so, and so just please God, that's all we can say.
Definitely. Great servants.
So, all right, quickly, how many points will we get?
4.
I was going to say 4 as well.
I dream of 4.
I actually think 4, but I believe that 4 won't be good enough, and I tell you why. Because Spain are going to drop points. Well, they're going to drop points, and the problem is we need Spain to get 9. If Spain got 9 points, 4 points would be enough for us. Italy are going to beat Spain in the first game. You heard it here first, because Spain don't have Puyol. Maybe they're going to lose a game anyway. Spain don't have Puyol. They don't have Villa. We saw Barca this year without
so over.
We see.
Because Villa wasn't
there. But then you have Llorente there as well, and that gives them a different
and Torres, game too. And Torres.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
they should start Llorente, and the great thing about Llorente is Llorente proved this year he can do both. He can do tiki-taka, and he can do lump it up.
Whereas you have Spain, where you say they're less potent than Barca, and the reason Barca are potent is because of Messi.
Absolutely.
But you have Llorente there to give you a plan B, and that makes all the difference.
And he's so I think it's going to be the good old-fashioned moral victory for us. Get 4 points, and I don't think people say we're going to lose all the games.
Pressure.
People are saying we're going to lose all our games. I think
we've
lost 2 games, competitive football matches in 4 years. I mean, the idea that we could lose 3. Not saying this couldn't happen, but the idea that we could lose 3 in 9 days is a bit unrealistic.
I think it's people worrying with the injuries and also the fact we haven't faced 3 quality opposition in 3 games in a row.
Okay, well, let's look at the quality opposition. Croatia. They lost to Greece twice in the group. Yeah. It's their style. It's their style of football that's a problem.
Yes,
obviously, it's the style they play. But Jelic is
form.
Where none of our strikers are form. None of our strikers are.
No, but Robbie doesn't need form when he comes to international football.
When he puts on the Ireland. Sorry, his little show for Aston Villa there.
Show
sublime.
It was 4 months ago though. That's the
but it also kept them up.
Yeah, Jesus.
If that kept them up.
Alex McLeish is terrible manager, isn't he?
But and I said it doesn't really matter for him. It was Keane. Keane in Ireland jersey.
So I think I'm surprised we're all agreeing. I thought someone would come up with the 1 pointer, but we're okay. We all think we might get a moral.
No, I said I dream of 4. I don't know. I genuinely don't know until I hear with the injuries.
This is obviously we're assuming here we're going to be at 9.
Yeah, of course.
It's warm. But okay. Looking at England, everyone's saying this is their most average squad in years, and
this average is every squad.
This is the point. This is as average. It's just there's no hype this time. This is like people forget Trevor Sinclair And Danny Mills played in 02.
Darius Vassell
came on for Rooney in 04. England have always
Darius Vassell came on in the Argentina match in 02.
Probably Fowler
played. No, but he played in 04. He came on for Rooney in 04. So England have always had average players. It's this time the hype isn't as much there, and I think they'll get out of the group. I think Ukraine will be another kind of Austria. In terms of they'll just be rubbish. So I think England will get out of the group in second place and lose to whoever finishes second in our group, or no, whoever finishes first in our group. Out of that, probably Spain, might be Italy, could even be Croatia, could even be us.
It's really breaking it down there.
If we finish second, do you want to face England? To live through that moment.
Oh yeah.
Of course. The risk is you lose England.
We've made it out of the group, though.
So you're already on cloud nine.
We're already. I have to say one thing. People are going to be negative. A lot of people who don't want about football are going to get involved and going to say it's rubbish if we do end up bombing. We're in bonus territory.
Absolutely.
As I said, we're either us and the Czech Republic. By rankings, we're the second worst team in it. The Czech Republic came to Dublin and kind of schooled us off the pitch in many ways. So we are the worst team in it. So if we're in bonus territory. That's basically all I want to say.
We're going to do Greece.
80-1 Ireland 80-1 Greece were in 04. It's an
24 years between each.
If Greece or Ireland win it, we can burn down the trophy for money. So handy, I'm sure it'll be worth a bit. Right. So actually, overall winners quickly. Overall winners. European.
Germany.
Spain.
Wow. Okay. I just don't fancy.
I fancy Del Bosque.
He's
a handsome man.
I do fancy him.
He's got a great moustache.
Fantastic. Impressive.
You don't see moustaches like Del Bosque's moustache these days, and it's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. But the only thing I would say about this German team, traditionally German teams are teams who would win tournaments when they'd absolutely no right to win tournaments. 54 beat the great Hungarian team. 74 beat the great Dutch team. 1990 they beat Argentina in the final. They weren't favourites. And this German team, these German group of players actually lose finals. We've seen Bayern lose 2 out of the last 3 Champions League finals, and we can't deny they bottled it the other night.
Now, in fairness, Bayern have lost 6 out of the last 5 Champions League or European Cup finals they've played in. So ever since the
Germany have lost World Cup semi-final, a European Championship final, and the World Cup final 02. So this obviously that's not the same generation. They were rubbish. They still lost the final.
To get there
was a great achievement. But either way, this group of German players don't seem to have the winning mentality. But they're a young side, and this could be their moment. And I do think they win it. And I think Klose, if any player deserves an international tournament medal, it's Miroslav Klose. Just an absolute beast for Germany. Like they're Robbie Keane, except obviously much better.
And his cartwheels are just
fantastic. I don't know if it's much better.
Look at the golden games record.
The golden game actually is fantastic. We also have the service.
Damien Duff.
It's the fact that
Mesut Ozil.
It's the fact that Klose can actually turn off for 2 years and then come back in the German jersey.
Yeah,
and same with Podolski. Like he played with Colm players who aren't that good, and then he come to the German team. It must be great. Like it must be a fantastic holiday for him. Like these players can actually pass the ball. Cologne finished bottom of the Bundesliga, by the way. That's why
they did.
So I'm not just making a.
And he still got 18. Still got 18 goals.
He's a very good footballer. And if Arsenal keep Van Persie, him and him,
that could be excellent.
Yeah, that would be very good.
I mean, would you prefer Podolski or Gervinho on your left wing? I mean, that really is a step up in quality.
And forehead. Well, step down in forehead size.
Step down in forehead size.
Thank God.
What are you saying about kind of Aryan looks?
Let's not go there. I'm the least Aryan person at this table anyway, so I've got.
I don't think any of us have like serious claims there, Conor.
Okay, very true. Right, we're going to finish very quickly because we've run over time already. We're going to finish very quickly on the GAA Championship. The weather's great and the Championship is starting, so it really does feel like summer. Just generally, how do you think Dublin will do, James? Do you think they have a chance of doing 2 in a row?
Well, obviously they have a chance.
A good chance.
That's great punishment.
They'll come out of Leinster, and then I expect them to falter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very hard to do 2 in a row. It's a very hard thing to do.
It is. And, do you not think that actually Kildare might win Leinster and they might go to the qualifiers and it'll suit them?
No, I think the opposite. I think Kildare qualifies and it'll suit Kildare.
Okay.
And obviously, I can't predict the future. And both of those scenarios are very likely.
Okay.
But I think Kildare again will show kind of a ballsy challenge and will falter as well. And I can see a winner coming out of Munster.
Right. Okay.
Cork will be very strong.
And Tipperary.
And really, it doesn't matter who comes out of Munster. regardless, I think it'll be one of those two.
Yeah.
Who wins
Who
it.
wins it,
Interesting. And Colm, on Meath, they've had an absolute shambolic preparation for the championship.
well, over the last sort of 2 years, ever since Banty's appointment, it has been a complete and utter shambles.
It sounds like a shambles when you have a guy called Banty.
I think
sounds like
the
shambles.
treatment of Banty is a shambles.
Well, he sounds like a pirate.
I think it's
ice cream.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Here. Go on. Make your point.
I think it's almost like, you know, Johnny Farner, England against Capello nonsense. Banty came in with a decent enough record indicating management. He wasn't treated well by the players. Grant, the Geraghty thing was a bit of a shambles.
He wasn't treated well by his players.
So anyway, he wasn't treated well by the Meath faithfully. He was treated very well. The players wanted him. The players wanted to keep him.
Go on.
Yeah, and I think the way in which the Meath public have treated him is a shambles.
Right, Colm, you've waited long enough.
Okay. No. I think first of all, the way the Meath public has treated him is a shambles. As though there's like, what have you been reading the Meath Chronicle?
I saw the burning in effigy.
Exactly. I think that's hyperbolic in the extreme. I think what you have to say is the guy came in. Yeah, he had a good track record. The reason he was brought in was Liam Harnan was heavily tipped for the Meath job after doing a great job with Screen, bringing an unfancied team to a Meath championship. He saw Banty, who had a good track record in Monaghan, and said, "Listen, we should bring this guy in. I'll go on the ticket with him." So you have a Meath man on the ticket. Now Barry Callan was then brought in on the ticket as well. Two Meath men who knew the lie of the land in Meath football, which is something Banty didn't. And Banty was there to train. So now what happened was, without seeing Geraghty play once, he decided to recall an over the hill footballer who had been a great servant to me, but his late 30s, not even a professional.
But this is sort of all ground.
Against the advice of his selectors.
Yeah,
and alienated them to the point where they had to quit. And this year, the Meath team has been an absolute shambles in the league.
And is there any hope of them turning around? Because it can happen.
It can happen, but I don't see it happening.
Okay. Right, and just very quickly, finally, as he's already said, usual suspects. You don't see anyone Kildare, Donegal, their glorious style. You don't see anyone.
Again, I think Donegal might show similar kind of similar form. Might make it far enough. I don't think it's good enough to get up with the line.
Right, so it'll be the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thanks very much, lads, for coming in. It was absolutely brilliant. We did an extra long one, a bumper special. So fantastic. So that was the Sporting Chancellors podcast presented by themeltingpress.com. I was Conor Hayes, James McDermott, Colm Booth, Dave Hughes. Thanks very much.